I put a $400 jacket on hold for 72 hours because I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because I couldn't afford it, because I started doing the math differently than I ever had before. By the time those 72 hours were up, I didn't want the jacket anymore. And I hadn't used willpower. I hadn't guilted myself. I just ran one simple calculation and my brain did the rest. That's what I want to show you today. Not a budget, not a restriction, a different operating system for how you think about money, one that makes the right financial decisions feel obvious instead of painful. I'm Yash, and I've spent a long time studying why smart people consistently make bad financial choices, and more importantly, what actually rewires that pattern. This is education based on my research and experience, not personal financial advice. Your situation is yours. But by the end of this, you'll have 10 minimalist money rules that create the kind of financial stability that doesn't require constant willpower to maintain. And one of them, the cost per use rule, changed how I think about almost every purchase I make. Here's the problem with most financial advice. It treats your behavior like it's a math error, like if someone just shows you the compound interest chart one more time, you'll finally stop spending money on things that don't matter. But that's not how humans work. Behavioral economists have known for decades that we don't make decisions with the rational part of our brain first. We make them emotionally, then we justify them logically after. This is why budgets fail most people. A budget is a logical constraint applied to an emotional process. It's like putting a padlock on your refrigerator to lose weight. It works until it doesn't, and the moment it doesn't, you feel worse about yourself than before you started. Minimalist money rules work differently. They don't restrict, they reframe. They give your emotional brain a different story to tell itself, one where the right choice actually feels satisfying, and that's a completely different game. Rule 1. Spend on experiences, maintain on possessions. The research on this is remarkably consistent. Studies from Cornell University show that experiential purchases generate more sustained happiness than material ones, and they don't trigger the same comparison spiral. When you buy a thing, someone always has a better thing. When you have an experience, it's yours. This rule alone restructures how you browse, what goes in your cart, and what you walk past. Rule 2. One in, one out. Every new physical item you bring in means one leaves. This isn't just minimalism philosophy, it's a natural spending break. When buying something new means deciding what to get rid of, you pause. That pause is where bad purchases die, not from guilt, from friction. Friction is underrated in personal finance. Rule 3. The 24-hour rule for anything under $100, the 72-hour rule for anything over. You've probably heard versions of this. Here's what nobody explains about why it works. Purchasing decisions hijack your dopamine system in the same way a slot machine does. The anticipation of buying something feels almost as good as having it. When you wait, that anticipation peaks and falls naturally. After 72 hours, if you still want it, it's probably not an impulse. If you forgot about it, you just saved yourself money effortlessly. My friend told me he started doing this and watched $600 of monthly impulse purchases drop to almost nothing inside 90 days. Not because he became more disciplined, because he gave his brain time to catch up to reality. Rule 4. Automate savings before you see the paycheck. This is non-negotiable, and the data is overwhelming. A 2023 Vanguard study found that automatic enrollment in savings programs increased participation rates by over 40 percentage points compared to opt-in programs. What that tells you is that the single biggest variable in whether people save isn't intention, it's friction. When saving requires action, most people don't do it consistently. When spending requires action, your savings are already gone. Flip the friction. Automate first. Spend what's left. Now, here's where it gets really interesting because this next rule is the one that made everything else click for me. Rule 5. The cost per use calculation. Stop. This is the most important part of everything I'm going to tell you today. The cost per use rule is simple in theory. You take the price of something and divide it by how many times you'll realistically use it. A $30 shirt you wear twice a week for 2 years costs you about 29 cents per use. A $150 shirt you wear 3 times and forget about costs you $50 per use. Which one is the impulse buy? Most people would call the $30 shirt the smarter purchase, but run the math and the $150 shirt, if you actually wear it, might be the better investment. Here's why this matters beyond just clothes. Your brain is wired for sticker shock. The price tag number hits your loss aversion instinct immediately, but the cost per use number bypasses that reaction entirely because it reframes the question. You're no longer asking, can I afford this? You're asking, does this earn its place in my life? Those are completely different decisions. I used to agonize over a $12 monthly app subscription. $12. I'd cancel it, regret it, resubscribe, feel guilty, cancel again. When I ran the cost per use calculation, I use it roughly 30 times a month, it's 40 cents per use. I spend more than that on a single sip of coffee without thinking. The subscription stayed, the guilt disappeared, and I stopped wasting mental energy on a $12 decision. Now apply this to the big purchases. A $1,200 quality mattress that you use every single night for 10 years works out to about 33 cents per night. A $500 budget mattress that wears out in 3 years and you replace twice costs you more per night and destroys your sleep quality in the process. The cost per use calculation doesn't tell you to spend more, it tells you to spend correctly. That's a completely different instruction. The place where this rule does the most damage to impulse spending is in the category of things you buy because they're on sale. A 60% off item you never use has an infinite cost per use. Literally, you divide by 0. That's the math of a bad deal regardless of the discount. Rule 6. No financial decisions after 9 p.m. This one sounds almost too simple to be real, but the research behind it is serious. Studies on decision fatigue, first documented by social psychologist Roy Baumeister, show that willpower and judgment degrade measurably throughout the day. Late-night online shopping isn't a character flaw, it's a biology exploit. Retailers know this. They schedule their email campaigns accordingly. Close the tab. The sale will exist tomorrow, or a better one will. Rule 7. Make your savings goal visible and your spending friction high. Humans are terrible at abstract motivation. I'm saving for retirement doesn't feel real. A number on a screen that you can watch move does. Put your savings goal somewhere you see it daily. At the same time, increase the friction between you and impulsive spending. Delete stored credit card numbers from shopping sites. Remove shopping apps from your phone's home screen. Add one extra step before checkout. Each of these sounds trivially small. Collectively, behavioral economists call this choice architecture, and studies show it can reduce impulsive decisions by up to 30% without any willpower required. Rule 8. Never carry the balance, or don't carry the card. Credit card interest rates are averaging over 22% right now. That means every purchase you finance across a month isn't just costing you the sticker price, it's costing you the sticker price plus a 22% premium. The math on this is brutal. If you carry a $5,000 balance at 22% and pay only the minimum, you'll pay back roughly $12,000 over the life of that debt and still feel like you're barely moving. Use credit cards for the rewards and the protection. They're genuinely useful tools, but treat them like a debit card. The balance clears every month or the card doesn't come out. Rule 9. Calculate every major purchase in hours, not dollars. This one changes things quickly. Your effective hourly rate after taxes, let's say you take home $25 an hour, means a $500 purchase costs you 20 hours of your life, not $500 of abstract money, 20 hours of Tuesday through Thursday. When a sales associate says it's only $500, your brain hears a number. When you translate it to actual time you traded for that money, the decision becomes visceral in a way dollars never are. Some purchases are worth 20 hours of your life. Many fewer than you currently buy are. Rule 10. Define your financial identity before your spending does. Here's the uncomfortable truth about why most financial rules fail long term. They treat symptoms. You overspend because you haven't decided who you are financially. Are you someone who builds wealth quietly or someone who performs wealth visibly? That's not a judgment, it's a genuine question, and most people have never consciously answered it. Because if you haven't decided, your spending decides for you, and it usually answers that question in favor of whoever is advertising to you hardest this week. When you decide intentionally that you are someone who prioritizes financial stability and freedom over the appearance of wealth, your purchases start self-sorting. Things that don't match that identity feel wrong before you buy them, not after. Now think back to the jacket. $400. I wear jackets maybe twice a week in season, call it 80 times a year. Over 3 years of regular use, that's 240 wears. $400 divided by 240 is $1.67 per use. That's actually not bad math. But here's what the cost per use rule really did. It made me slow down and ask an honest question. Do I actually wear jackets 80 times a year? Or am I imagining a version of myself who does? The honest answer was closer to 20 times, which made it $6.67 per use on a jacket I already had 4 of. The math killed the purchase cleanly, no guilt required. That's the shift these 10 rules create together. Not restriction, not guilt. A different relationship with every financial decision you make, one where the numbers tell the story before the impulse does. The first step isn't overhauling your entire life this week. It's running the cost per use calculation on the next thing you want to buy. Just that, one number. Your brain will do the rest. Once you're running that calculation automatically, you'll notice your impulse spending start to shrink without effort. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're just asking better questions. And when the impulse spending drops, the gap between what you earn and what you spend grows. That gap is the only raw material financial stability is made from. Everything else, the investing, the compounding, the freedom to make choices that actually fit your life, flows from that gap. You don't need a finance degree. You don't need a perfect budget. You need 10 rules that your brain can actually run on autopilot. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.